Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our newest edition of AmiSights. I'm Ami Kassar, your host, along with my co-host Lynn Ozer, aka SBA Queen. And today, so excited to have our colleague and friend with us, Joe McAleer, aka SBA Acquisitions King. so,
Touche.
touche. Joe has been a part of our multifamily funding family for over a decade now, and I'd love to, always fun to get some of our colleagues on here to share some insights about the work that we do, how we collaborate together, what happens, the ins and outs of doing deals, etc., and just tell stories. So, Joe, welcome, and thanks for taking some time to be on the show with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here. And thanks for
Yes.
that, thanks for that proclamation that I'm the acquisition king. I'll take it.
I'm sure you will.
It sounds good. I thought he was going to
Yeah.
say new daddy. So we all
Yeah.
want to congratulate
So
Joe
let's get to
on
the
becoming a
important.
new father.
Thank
Let's
you.
get to the important stuff first, Joe. What's new in your life the last couple of weeks? Eh?
Yeah. What's new in my life? Well, we had a baby. We welcomed our first, a little girl, back August 26th. So we're approaching 2 months in here and getting the hang of things per se, and trying to get some sleep. And fortunately, my wife has a nice paternity leave or maternity leave. So, she helps me still manage my day to day, and I help her with with all the baby stuff when I can. But yeah, that's been the biggest thing with me is, this new little addition. That's a bundle of joy, but, creating, new challenges and, new importance, let's say, in my life, while I balance everything else that is, taking care of people and our clients and people that need loans. So yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, but
It gets easier.
Before we dig into all that, does any of that really matter compared to having a little baby?
No, definitely not. Yeah.
We're all so happy for you.
Thank you. Yeah,
So
it's been great.
So why don't we step back a minute and talk about the beginnings of the multi-funding journey, and then kind of where we've, from your perspective, where we've evolved to and where we're going, and let's just share some of the beginning days.
Yeah, sure. I would love to. So I worked in corporate finance for about 8 years or so before joining MultiFunding, and worked in a small business, a smaller business environment. Worked for a company that was nationwide, and 2,500 employees, and they succumbed to the like the economic downturn of 2008, right? And was one of the sort of surviving employees there, and went through a complete wind down. And, it was definitely a very interesting, time to function in a jack of all trades finance role while, the company was going through this extreme difficulty. But, I suppose some takeaways from that is understanding some of the things we deal with nowadays when we work with business owners, or as we think about business owners and prospective entrepreneurs. I mean, it was certainly something that I would never want to have to experience again. But, left that or was forced to leave that job and got a job with another company. And they were 15,000 employees worldwide, and, was thrust into an environment at a much larger scale, dealing with bigger budgets and understanding balance sheets and forecasting and, and reconciliations and, everything that is corporate finance and finance in general. Was working in that space and was preparing to exit that company, and get a job with a different company back in a smaller scale, medium scale, let's say, another company out of Philadelphia. And, I was saying to my parents that the the in and out, the day in, the day out, the monotony of the 9 to 5 was not something that I loved. It wasn't something that I really enjoyed and could see myself doing forever. It paid pretty well. The job security aspect of it was something my parents, really pushed me that it was a great thing to have. But I was saying to them, I'd sooner deliver pizzas than do this for the rest of my life. So it just wasn't for me. I'd always been somebody, I worked with kids teaching tennis for 8 years through high school and college, and and even a little bit thereafter, and to kind of move into this environment of not a lot of human interaction and such, it just wasn't for me. So fortunately, through a family friend that Ami, of course, had suggested before I was stepping into this next corporate finance role, had suggested, hey, why don't you go meet up with this guy, Ami? He started this little business. They help business owners get loans, get financing. And he's a great guy. See if Joe likes it. And I remember, I connected with you, Ami. You said, yeah, come in, whatever. I walked in, like many do or did at some point in time, coming into your world, and was wearing a suit. And, you told me, we sat down, chatted for an hour. You kind of told me, introduced me to everybody, said, here's what we do. I don't have a handbook for you. You can kind of come and go as you please, and ask questions and ask me questions when you can, ask the other guys questions or the other advisors questions. And, when you feel comfortable, maybe we'll have you get on some calls or whatever. And, and you said that right then and there that day, and don't you ever wear a suit into this office ever again, or you won't be welcome back here. And I chuckled, and, just the feeling that I was getting and the excitement of what was going on, these guys sitting around a table, you sitting on a couch, and, just on the phone and talking to people and hearing their problems and hearing their issues on the speakerphone. And, it was exciting. It was different. It was neat. It was like, kind of using some of the skills of understanding, these things that I had learned and went to college for, or whatever, if you even want to, associate my college years with what I'm doing now. But yeah, just immediately clicked, and I spent some more time with you here and there. And I think officially was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And, didn't sign a contract or anything, just really solidified that I would come to the office more often and sit with people. And I think 6 months in, from that, whenever I quote unquote started, which is coming up on 11 years ago now, 6 months into that time, I closed my first SBA loan. I helped a dental practitioner. She was expanding her business and had been told no by her bank to move into a larger facility, and was sort of scrambling and didn't know where to turn. And I think we might have gotten this lead by like a dial lead or buy a lead, Ami. We were doing a lot of that at the time. It was pretty funny, but yeah.
Businessloans.com or something.
Yeah. And just so happened, this was a good one, in the sea of crap. This was the one out of 100 that, like, okay, we could actually help you, and you don't know where to turn, and your bank told you no. And I teamed them up with, one of our great resources, and it was a good learning experience. But the biggest thing that moment, and I'll never forget it, when I closed that loan, the joy, the elation, the gratitude that was coming from that client, that we had found them this real estate loan, this SBA loan, and had solved their problem. That was the moment it clicked, and I was like, I need to do this. And here I am 11 years later, and a lot of phone calls later, and a lot of learning and understanding and learning about SBA, which I've decided to really, of course, focus on these last handful of years, really focus on SBA and the business acquisition side. That was the moment. And helping people get out of their shorter term, uglier loans and feeding off of the principles of the company that you established, Ami, and the ideology of really trying to help people and better position them versus, place things that many other brokers were doing, which would only help us and fill our pockets, and really, maybe put people in worse positions. That really sunk in with me. And, and I was a guy that worked with a lot of the cash advance lenders to get their troubled borrowers out of their shorter term debt. And slowly started trickling into working with business brokers who needed resources for borrowing buyers. We've always had this great network of SBA banks, some of them that existed back then and sort of still exist today, or the bankers have maybe moved around and we still work with them. But, we've had just such great relationships and the ability to identify the best banks that I quickly got known as a problem solver through business acquisition. If brokers knew me as a guy, like if Joe, analyzes my opportunity or an opportunity and, deals with my borrowing buyer and says that he can get something done or gets a proposal, there's a really high probability that Joe's going to actually get that loan approved and get it done. But more importantly, Joe deals with all the crap on the lending side of things. So, we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to handhold it. We don't have to babysit it. Joe and his resources are going to be the ones that really do that. So, just more and more when you create more and more success, or I suppose you get more people that are hearing about that, or you get more brokers that are talking about that and really love the way that we do things, right? That's the key, or one of the keys outside of the relationships that I'm talking about is the way that we do things. And we do them, differently than others. We are so hands-on, we are analysts before we are brokers. We dig in, we understand things, and we make sure that we're positioning an opportunity or a loan request with in the best light possible, or understanding potential hurdles, or understanding the rules and the regs, and understanding how we're going to guide folks and advise folks, and again position them with the best resources that are going to be able to create that success. So that's sort of, I guess, my medium-winded version of my story, and where I was and where I'm at, and I guess what my specialization or specialty is these days. So
it's great. I love what you said, Joe, about multi-funding, and it's something that's so true. I mean, as a former banker, the word broker always made me shiver. It was
right. Yep.
synonymous to a used car dealer, which wasn't really very good. And most,
right,
or lots of brokers, not most, I don't want to say that, but lots of them do literally take a deal, throw it against the wall and see what sticks, shops it to everyone. And quite frankly, they don't even really know what the deal is about. And the fact that you said that we are analysts before anything else, that's something that's important for everybody to know about multi-funding, and you and all of the advisors who do know your craft and look at a deal, and you're not going to waste anybody's time if it's not going to work. And you're not going to put someone in a position where they're not set up for success, where it's going to make their lives more difficult in order to pay a loan back. Just because you'll make money, you're not putting them in that position. And I think that that's very respectable.
I think it's
and
interesting
why you have a good reputation.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting for the listeners out there that maybe don't know the nuances of our industry. So our primary competitor is someone just going directly to their bank. Okay. And so we believe we create not all the time, but most times, a better alternative because we can advocate for our clients and give them more options and alternatives than just walking straight into one particular bank. But
and that's also what's so nice about being in Joe's position as an advisor is he's working with 15 different credit boxes instead of someone walking into a bank with a credit box and hearing them say no. I mean, it's so nice as someone who's trying to lend to be able to put the square peg into the square hole instead of trying to force it into the round one that they're stuck with.
Yep.
What people don't know is they don't know what our people don't like. Most people don't know a loan broker,
right?
But a lot of loan brokers have a pretty, just rightfully so, dirty reputation.
Yep.
And so lenders know brokers, but most people don't even know that loan brokers exist. So we have this weird like branding challenge in a way of like defining who we are, and we struggle. So we're broke because ultimately we make money brokering loans. That's how we make a living, right? But we don't like.
But we are financial advisors.
Correct. So like it's like that's delicate. That's delicate. Joe, what are some of the challenges you find when you help someone through a business acquisition?
So, I think where my mind immediately goes in guiding people with business acquisitions is all the nuances, right? When it comes to fitting yourself in that box, that credit box, right? People that want to buy businesses, there's this mixed bag, and it's shifted through the years, right? There's this mixed bag of the type of buyer. You've got strategic buyers, which there's been a lot more of recently. I suppose that with changes in the economy and real estate, you've got people that are moving away from buying real estate because it's not as readily available or it's more costly, and they want to buy businesses as investments. Well, the SBA is not really designed as a tool for passive investment, and people don't necessarily immediately understand that. They've been given this idea, they came up with this idea, or they're part of an entrepreneurial group because there's a lot more of them out there, or they saw it on the internet or on social media that buying businesses is the new big thing, right? That's where you want to park your money. And that's great. I don't have an issue with that. I mean, that's, I'm going to make my living by people who want to buy businesses. So I need to work with the people that, that are trying to, fulfill their livelihood and get into a business that they want to own and operate and maybe do something different than they've done, just like me getting out of a corporate job that they don't want to work anymore and run their own business. And, the type of people where, you feel like, well, this is exactly the design of this program, but others, of course, who are thinking about it a little bit differently. So the immediate challenges, and I think, again, what speaks to us adding so much value through our involvement is being able to say to somebody or explain to somebody where their approach with an opportunity may quickly become problematic, right? In terms of what the SBA expects or what their rules and regs are, or what a bank is going to expect as well. Most people don't understand that. They don't know anything about SBA loans. They just know that they can, quote unquote, get an SBA loan. There's this government-backed free money being handed out to people that want to buy businesses.
Love that.
Yeah, purely because they're asking for it. And that's the furthest thing, from the truth. So, the immediate challenge is helping people understand, looking at their situation, helping them understand, like, here's the things that might be problematic, and here's how we're going to need to approach them differently. And if we can or cannot, again, really drilling down on, setting expectations of what things are just not going to work, once they approach a bank, and what things will, right? And quite honestly, with getting SBA acquisition loans, not to reveal a major secret, but the story you tell is really everything, right? It's so important. It's so important that you're getting the bank comfortable. You're telling them the things that they want to hear, or again, the things that are going to help them abide by the rules and regs, and make them make them more aggressively wanting to make you a loan versus you telling them things where they're going, well, wait a minute, this is not good, or this is not going to work for us. So that's something I'm experiencing more of, or something that I'm having to help people, more with these days. The other one is the flip side of that, I suppose, is the people that, like I said, they want to buy a business, they want to move away from what they've been doing, and they want to get into a business and make their living that way. And again, one of the immediate challenges, which a lot of people don't understand, and can oftentimes cause some contention in the immediate conversations, is when you're looking to buy a business, and you're looking to use that business to pay your bills and pay your salary. I get it. Like, it's frustrating to hear, well, a bank expects me to own and operate a business and dedicate myself full time, but this business I want to buy technically cannot support the loan and also support me in the eyes of a bank, right? So banks are trying to understand what people, by way of their personal debt load, what they need to pay themselves or extract from a business's cash flow to support themselves. And when there's not enough to support them and support the loan and still meet, bank minimum debt service coverage requirements, things start to fall apart. And that's when people get frustrated, or, they've spent all this time and all this energy investing themselves into this business that they felt like is the right one for them. They've gotten to know a seller, and they've gotten comfortable, and all of a sudden the numbers are not the numbers that they originally thought worked and that were presented to them. When we really start to break that down and we do that financial analysis, suddenly we're saying, hey, this, because of this or because of that, it doesn't work. So one of the biggest challenges with people that want to buy businesses is if they have a higher personal debt load, or they don't have ongoing outside income, or their expectation is to exit their current employment, and therefore would create too significant of a detriment to purchasing a business, or a particular business. That creates a challenge right there. And then that leads me into another relative challenge, or relatable challenges. The marketplace has become a bit of a frenzy, with the fact that so many people want to buy businesses right now. And the fact that real estate is a little bit, dried up, or drier, let's say. The marketplace is crazy. There's a lot of businesses that have historically sold at lower multiples, or more favorable sale prices that are getting pushed higher and higher, right? There's a lot more business brokers out there than there was a few years ago. And the agenda, the common agenda on the sell side, is sell for the highest dollar, right? But in this crazy marketplace, in this frenzy of a business marketplace that we're dealing with, most buyers want to use SBA loans. So we've got this conundrum of business buyers, this big pool of buyers that want to buy businesses, and this big pool of sellers and brokers who are helping seller want to sell businesses, and most of the buyers being those that want to use leverage, or want to use an SBA loan or some type of loan to buy a business. And the challenge of the loan only getting you so far towards the purchase of a business. So again, the frustration of looking at deals day in and day out that people get excited about, and the glorification of a business's cash flow in the materials that are initially presented to somebody, versus what we have to use or work with to debt service a loan, once we start to break down and do that financial analysis. And suddenly we're having those difficult conversations that things do not work, or the price they agreed to pay is not going to be fully supported by a loan. And it's therein lies that immediate challenge. That's like, it's these difficulties that I'm commonly running into these days in dealing with more volume, which is a great thing, but the frustration of the fact that a lot of that volume cannot turn over for certain borrowers, or a lot of businesses that are attempting to be oversold. I mean, I could go on, Ami, but those are the major ones right now in this day and age, because you've got a lot of aggressive or progressive banks that will lend on collateralless businesses, and collateralless borrowers. Cash flow, good opportunities is the meat and potatoes of getting a loan with many progressive SBA resources. So it's not necessarily the problem of having access to the banks that will make credit. It's the challenges. It's more so on the deal side of things, of getting a business that actually, when you break things down, is able to fully support the loan that we need to get somebody, or that stands up to the valuation that's going to be, that's going to help somebody make a good investment. Back to helping people out of crappy loans. I want to help people make good investments, buy good businesses, not overpay or get into situations where, all of their cash is going to pay their SBA loan and there's nothing left for them to pay themselves or support their families, or even worse, if things get stressful when they transition that business and they don't have that cushion, to float things for a little while. That's where I've heard of or seen new business owners, get into trouble. So, again, those are immediate things that come to mind. And again, the things I'm dealing with a little bit more frequently, working or specializing in this space these days.
I think it's important for people, and I know when you're in the thick of it and when you're emotional, it's hard to realize it. But the bank is actually there to protect you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if the bank is raising concerns about your application,
yep,
listen carefully.
Yeah.
Sometimes their concerns are BS if it's a very hyper-conservative, very difficult bank. Okay. But if it's the right bank and there are concerns, you should listen carefully, because they want to make a loan that they're confident that you can borrow back.
Yep.
And if they're not, or something's coming up, something could be wrong with the deals. So while the bank might feel like your enemy, it's actually your friend. And what we're here to try and do is to try to take you through that process and help you curate the BS from the truth. But there can be a combination of both.
Mm-hmm. And some of the expectations of borrowers, and Joe did touch on this, where they don't have the full story and they don't know everything that the SBA does, and they've heard bits and pieces, and they come in and they really think that because they have an idea, that's a good enough reason for them to get a loan. And some of them are still under the impression that they're not personally liable for it if it goes bad, and they don't differentiate from what happened to them during PPP and what's going to happen during a regular 7A loan. And that's something else that you have to, waters you have to navigate with them too at the beginning. But for quite a long time, even before COVID, there was the start of this, they call it the silver tsunami, when all of the baby boomers are selling their businesses. And they were put on hold during COVID. So now the ones that were on hold, plus the ones that just reached the age of selling or interested in selling, it has created such a frenzy, as you've mentioned.
Absolutely.
And it's true that SBA is absolutely the best deal out there for non-real estate business purchases. And a lot of people are catching on to that. So it's a good
So
niche,
it's fun for me to reflect in these conversations to think about, like, so multi-funding is, I can't believe it, in January will be 15 years old. Joe, you've been here over 11, which is amazing. And it's just fascinating to me to just, when we have these conversations, it makes me reflective of how far we've come and how far we have to go, right?
Yep.
Like, so, and it doesn't go in a straight line. It goes through its ebbs and flows. But you know, we had, when Joe started, or 4 years in, we maybe done less than a handful of SBA loans. And now I think we've done like 600 or 700 of them or something like that.
Yeah, and we weren't, I mean, business acquisition SBA loans was like unheard of. We were like, what's that?
Also, funny, for the first couple of years, I would say, don't touch a business acquisition deal.
Right.
I was like, there's two parties that can screw it up.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, and they are less predictable. And sometimes in our work, we can work on a deal for 9, 10, 11 months, and then it blows up at the 11th hour, which is like, and we've learned a lot how to, as best as we can, try to do that. So it's all good, but Joe, it's really amazing to see the journey and everything you've helped to really likely create thousands of jobs out there, which is another part of the satisfaction of the work. It's great to
big time
have you as part of us, even though we don't get to see you enough, but that's okay. And just keep on up, and thank you for everything that you do. And you guys can always find Joe on our website or on his LinkedIn, Joe McAleer, and he's an amazing guy. So Joe, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for the kind words. Thanks for having me, and continuing to have me on this great team, because love what we do, love what we're about, love how we adapt and continue to work with and help people. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be able to work in this space.